Hello, buenas noches, good evening, everyone. Mi nombre es María Cristina Fuste, and I'm the Executive Artistic Director of Boundless Theater Company. And today we're back with Entremeses. I'm so excited. Actually, today is the first time we're doing an Entremes in English, which I'm very excited about. And we're going to be talking to the amazing costume designer, Daniel Nieves. But before I introduce you to Daniel, I want to give you some updates on our programming. Keep an eye out because Main Stage is coming back in person in December with the play Las Cosas Extraordinarias, directed by Ismanuel Rodriguez. This is a production that is currently playing in Puerto Rico with great success, and we can't wait to bring that production over to our audiences here in New York. So stay tuned for more information. Tickets are going to go on sale pretty soon. And also remember to visit our website or any of our social media pages to hear more about the company and our future projects. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about the incredible Daniel. Daniel Nieves is a Mexican Peruvian costume designer based in Seattle, Washington. Danielle has more than 10 years of experience as a designer and curator. She's currently the costume director at Seattle Rep. And as a freelance designer, she has collaborated with theaters all over the US. Aside from design, she specializes in clothing psychology, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that, costume history, and textiles. She has worked in Japan and has a curatorial training certificate for Japanese and Western costumes and textiles from the Kyoto Costume Institute. I mean, wow. Nuestra familia representing us at amazing places in the world. She's like awesome. I love this woman. I love her as a person and as a designer. Así que, bienvenida, Daniel.
Hi, Maria Cristina. Thank you for having me.
Hi. You know, it's so funny because we saw each other a week ago. It's the last time we saw each other, but I feel it's been forever.
I
I
know,
miss
and I
you.
miss you.
And how are you? How's everything?
I'm good. I'm back in Seattle where it's rainy all the time. So I
Oh,
kind of miss the sunny,
yeah.
warm weather of Chicago, where we were last. But yeah, it's going well. I'm happy that COVID is over and theaters are doing shows again. So
Yeah, that's
I mean,
incredible.
COVID's not over, but
Well, it's not
our
over.
industry, our industry is coming back.
It's not over. It's not over,
It's not
but
over at all.
I think we're figuring out ways to continue doing what we do in a safe way. And we just saw it in the show we just did at the Goodman. So far, it has worked pretty well. There hasn't been any, how do you say that? Contagios.
Yeah, there hasn't been any breakthroughs or
Any,
anything. And yeah.
so it's been great. It's been incredible. What else I was gonna say? Oh, yeah, we're gonna talk more about mariachi in a little bit, but before we go into that, I want to know what or who is your companion to tonight's conversa. That's very important.
Yes. So tonight I have Rosé Prosecco, which you and I drank in a hot tub at at the apartments we were staying at in Chicago. And
Yeah.
we were there after hours, and the doorman came up and was like, "You ladies know you're not supposed to be here." And we were like, "Please." And he
Por
was like,
favor, por favor, por favor.
he was like, "Okay." He
Yeah,
walked out. And
yeah,
then we
he's
spent,
like, yeah, I didn't see you guys. Bye.
yeah. So then we just proceeded to drink Prosecco in the hot tub for like an hour.
I know. That was awesome.
It was
And
awesome.
yeah, so I thought of the same thing. I'm like, of course. I mean, I'm seeing Daniel. I thought of maybe making a margarita since that's also something that we love, but Prosecco was our first um encounter
Yeah.
at the hot tub. And
Yeah. It was great.
this time I got a cava just to change it up a little bit.
Well, we also had a lot of cava on the opening night party.
Oh, right. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
We had cava instead of prosecco or champagne. Excellent.
Yeah.
Bueno, pues salud, niña.
Yeah, salud.
Ching, ching. Let's have a little bit. Mm. Oh, so good. Love it. Okay. So let's do this. All right. So, Daniel, I want to know, and I want everyone to know, how did you become a costume designer? What is your training? I want to know more about clothing psychology. And also, because this is something we talked about when we were, we were with Regina hanging out one day in one of our breaks. And then you talked about the fact that you have a mission, I would say. I don't know if it's a mission, but you know, like a purpose of dismantling little by little the clothing stereotypes that we're so used to seeing in theater. So it's a lot. Let's start with, why did you become a costume designer?
Yeah. So I went to college in a small rural town in Vermont. I didn't grow up in Vermont. I went there because it was like they gave me a lot of money to go, which was great. I was really privileged to be able to do that.
Reason.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is the cheapest option. I'm gonna go there. So I went to like an informational session about what kind of classes the college offered. And there was one called costume design. And my abuela and I used to sew all the time for like aprons, like little things. She taught me how to sew. And so I was like, that's interesting. I'm going to go ask about it. So I go up to the professor. I'm like, hey, what's this about? And she's like, oh, I've already signed you up. And I was like, okay. So I get into the class. And it was really intense. It was like one of the hardest classes I took, just not like my brain is hurting so much, but just the amount of hours I had to put into the class. And then I got hooked. The rest was history.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, I think it happens to everyone in very similar ways. I have friends that went to school for psychology, but they had this, you know, this need of maybe taking an acting class. Everything.
Yeah.
Changed.
Well, I had never been like a theater person before that. Like I didn't know I'd never read Shakespeare. I didn't know anything about plays. Like my family is not in the arts at all. So it was very new for me. But I really loved it.
But I love the connection that you bring up with your abuela, because you probably, even though you were not doing theater as a kid and growing up and, you know, learning from her how to sew and all that, that's part of your design, you know, of your history and your training as a designer.
Right. And my abuela also taught me how to paint. So that she was the artist that never got to pursue art in the way that she wanted to. And so I think she sort of wanted to foster that in me, which is really sweet.
You're so lucky. So
I know. Yeah, I love her.
Oh yeah, totally. Abuelas are the best. Abuelas are the best.
They are. I have all of her Tupperware. I need to return some so she can give me more food.
Yeah, I remember my grandmother, she would cook for me whenever I went to Puerto Rico, and she would give me all these Tupperwares, and I had to, and I brought them. I'm an expert in exporting food from Puerto Rico. I call it contrabando. I do contrabando of food and things from Puerto Rico, like things. Everywhere. And I remember just like going crazy. She would call me, Mira, where's my Tupperware?
No, I know. Same with my abuela. Like she knows that paella is my favorite, and so she always makes like paella every time I go. And then she'll like randomly giving me like cuttings of aloe plants.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
that's important.
Yeah. So plants and food.
That's awesome, because my abuela used to do that too. I mean, again, abuelas are the best, and I feel that in our culture, that connection to our heritage, and learning from them as much as possible to
Oh,
cook
it's
whatever
so
they cook.
important.
The way they cook, it's an
Yeah.
art form.
Yeah.
How they
Yeah.
combine the ingredients, how things look, how they taste. And I remember she used to cook very specific things for each one of us, like
Oh.
different things,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to please each one of us. Yeah, they're
Oh.
abuelas. Anyway,
Oh.
so then, now that we know how you got into costumes, I want to know more about clothing psychology and what does this means to you.
Sure. So to me, clothing psychology is like not really a field of study, but more like a something that impacts me, especially as a stylist and a costume designer, because clothing impacts how we think. When you wear it, it can change your decision-making processes. It can change how you talk to other people, and it can change how others talk to you.
Mhm.
Like for example, like you're walking down the street and you see somebody, you make a split second decision on who you think that person is,
Yeah.
what kind of person that is. And you will talk to people differently depending on what they are wearing. So if someone's in a t-shirt and jeans, you're probably going to speak to them differently than someone who's wearing a suit or a formal gown.
Hmm.
So psychologically, it impacts our perceptions of society, of culture, how we see other people, and how we make decisions. Um, I think like a lot of this can be seen in politics, especially. Like
Mm,
Angela Merkel will wear solid color suits and will pick a different color depending on who she's meeting.
I see.
Um, Depending on sort of like the color psychology, like how her
Wow.
peers or other politicians are going to view her that day and what message she wants to send. So definitely shows up in politics all the time.
I have a question about that because
Yeah.
I am a fan of Hillary Clinton, and I've read her books. I follow her. I've seen documentaries, everything. And she talks about the pressure, as a woman and this infuriates me, right? But as a woman, of how she was judged she's been judged all, she's a public figure.
Yeah, it'll never stop. Yeah.
Controversial one. I mean,
Yeah.
but especially during the campaign, you know, oh, she always wears this. Oh, she wore this color. Oh, she looks, she laughs too much. Or her hair is this, and she, at least on the documentary, she seems so aggravated by the fact that men they can wear a suit, the same suit every day, and
Right.
no one is
Right.
going to say anything.
Right. Right.
No one notices, no one cares. They want to
Right.
know what he's talking about. They pay attention to what he's talking about. But then she had that extra layer of, scrutiny,
Yeah.
something that really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares if she wears a pantsuit or a skirt, or it's blue, or it has a print, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean there's a really long history, right, about women in politics and what they have to wear. And another psychological, like costume psychology thing that I'll throw in here is that we make decisions on how we view others and their level of power or their level of capability based on shape. So historically and stereotypically, we associate linear shapes, so like squares, straight lines, with masculinity. And so culturally, a lot of people associate like suits because they're pretty linear, right? You
Mhm.
have like shoulders, yep, pretty square, like the lapels go like this, the collar goes like this, with power and what's the word I'm looking for?
Hmm.
Poise
Mhm.
or confidence,
Mhm.
uh, capability, and and so then in the opposite realm, culturally, psychologically, we associate things like curves circles, S shapes with things like naivety or femininity, powerlessness, weakness, stupidity, really underhanded things that are ingrained into us visually on a psychological level about clothing. And it's really messed up. It's really messed up. And so when people see women, especially in politics, wearing traditionally masculine, right? Again, these linear shapes, they have so much to say about it.
Yeah.
And they have so many opinions.
Yeah.
But no one bats an eye, right? Like you were saying, like when a man in politics wears a suit, everyone's listening to his words and not looking at him because we just ignore it.
It's unimportant.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what can you tell me about how do you think, as a costume designer, you are able to, change little by little that stereotype in women? And maybe you can, I don't know if you have concrete examples, maybe from mariachi or I don't know, or something.
Yeah.
How do you think, we can contribute to that?
Yeah, I think basically what I would love to contribute to that as a costume designer as I go forward is just breaking down who gets to wear what, like cutting the binary of clothing and mixing it up so that people with nuanced and layered characters can wear whatever. And we don't, like, for example, if Lucha in mariachi in the end wears a skirt that's fluted, it's both feminine and powerful.
Yeah.
Right. So I got curves in there and I have linear shapes. So I tried to do both in their finale trajes, in the mariachi. Because
I can show the sketch of, I don't know if this is Lucha. This is, let me see.
I think it's like a generic whoever.
The Coronelas. Yeah.
Yeah, Las Coronelas. So for the traje here on the bolero jacket, it's got some linear shapes, but I wanted the collar to be slightly curved. And then traditionally in the traje, the skirt will either be like straight down to the floor or A-line. And what I did is I trumpeted it. So it's kind of like a slight mermaid tulip shape. So I wanted to get an extra curve in there. So what was important to me was showcasing that femininity can be powerful, can be smart, can be capable. And so adding more curves and frills or lace or whatever we culturally associate with weakness, putting that on characters who are powerful and who break the mold in a non-binary way. And conversely, putting softer shapes too on very masculine characters. Right? Like breaking down those sort of barriers too, and sort of mix and matching curves with lines on all sorts of people to sort of get us to stop thinking in such a binary way.
Yeah. And I wonder, when you are talking to a director, and showing your sketches and etc., do you mention this, or do you just put it in there and hope that they get it? And if you do mention it, if you mention your intention, of working with the stereotypes and blending things and dealing with the non-binary, what is the reaction generally?
Yeah, the reaction generally is really positive and really like, yes, let's try it. Like, yes, I want to promote femininity and I want to promote like female power in these characters, like especially in mariachi. Like Henry was all about like, yes, let's make high heels badass and powerful and rockin' rather than like sexy, right? Which we associate with ill intentions sometimes. One time I had pushback was in a conceptual design, so it was never realized. It was for Hamlet.
Mhm.
And I wanted Gertrude
Mhm.
in like a very form-fitting, revealing a lot of skin, body tight dress, and the conceptual director was like, it's too sexy. Like, what is she trying to do? And in my opinion, I was trying to fight for like, well, why can't she also want the crown? Why can't she also want the power? Like, why do we have to associate her with seductress? Right?
Mhm.
Because that's not necessarily just her role in this play. It's more layered than that. So
Uh-huh.
like, why can't we like train the audience to look past that and develop a more nuanced character who can be sexy and powerful at the same time?
I see. Interesting. Interesting. Since we're talking about a little bit about mariachis, I want to show a photo of the trajes. And I have to say that if you guys haven't seen the show and if you're in Chicago, you should go and see it. I, because when I'm working, I don't get to focus on the details of the costumes because I'm looking at the lighting. But during opening night, when Lucha comes in at the end in her traje, I gasped. I was like, oh, I see. And I could see perfectly how beautiful it was fitted, how she looked. It was perfect. And also it was very powerful
Yeah.
and but very feminine at the
Yeah,
same time.
exactly.
And now that you talk to me, because I didn't know about those specific choices when you worked on this design. Everything makes total sense. I'm gonna
Yeah.
bring up the photo. So this is when we did it in Dallas.
Yes, yes. And it's a little harder to see in this photo per se, but when they start walking and you can see it, the fluting, the sort of mermaid tulip skirt effect really
Mm,
works beautifully. But it's really fitted to their hips because, like, we like curves, right? We like bodies. We love the feminine body as a source of power.
mm-hmm.
And we do a lot of stories that people overcome a lot of obstacles and environments to obtain power. But there's sometimes I just want people to have power for the sake of having it. So, like, it comes naturally from having a curvaceous body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so since we're talking about mariachi, right? Let me see what else I wanted to say about mariachi. Oh, very important. We started working on this show. So I was the lighting designer for the show. Danielle was the costume designer, and then Linda was our set designer. And we started working on this a long time ago. I don't even remember. I think in 2019, like in by November or something. I think the designs were like done probably, or even before that. I don't know. At least,
Wow, almost like 2 years ago.
so it's been a while.
Yeah.
And then we went to Dallas and we were working on the show. Super cool. And suddenly, the pandemic started. It
Yeah.
actually, we know all the story. The pandemic
Yeah.
was there, but it caught us when everything was shut down. It caught us in the middle. Actually, I think we were about to have our first performance preview, but we never opened the show. We never had a performance. We had a dress
Yeah.
rehearsal.
It was like a invited photo because they canceled the preview.
Yeah, basically, I feel that Dallas was very gracious and considerate to all of us because after working so hard on this show, they were able to have some kind of performance, right?
Yeah.
So we could, I remember that day. I'll cherish that moment because it was just so absurd and crazy. But
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. We were all crying at the end of it,
oh,
It's like,
totally. It was crazy. But what happened next is that we were super lucky that this co-pro with the Goodman was picked up and it was produced. It opened last week in Chicago, and we were there and we were able to open finally and have our show and everything. But I wonder, Danielle, since the costumes, you designed this pre-pandemic 2 years ago. How, with the new Danielle, because we all changed and we
Yeah.
all, affected by what's happening. How was that feeling when you went back to the theater and when you saw the costumes and you saw the bodies and there was an actress at one of them.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
the Achis were different, all of them. So how was that as a designer? What happened in your head when you went in?
Yeah, I think like the first moment as a designer when they all were on stage, I was like, did my life just hit a pause button and then we pressed play again? Like, this is oddly familiar. And a lot of it was, I was really surprised at the decisions I had made 2 years ago
Mm,
because I was like, oh, well, I must have done that for a reason.
mm,
I just don't remember what that reason was.
mhm.
Or a lot of them were, some I was like, what was I thinking? And then other times I was like, oh, that's a good idea that I had 2 years ago. I don't know if I would have thought of that now.
Mhm,
I think it was all sort of surreal
mhm,
because I was like, oh, we were in the middle of this.
mhm.
It just felt like the past 2 years were a giant blur, but then I was trying to pick up the pieces of what was I trying to do? Where
Ah,
were we trying to get to? And so I think it certainly isn't ideal because I was so in the design process back in Dallas, like in the depth of it, trying to get it all done. And then at the Goodman, it was sort of like, well, what was I going to do? And I don't remember. Should have written it down, but I didn't. And so, yeah, I don't know if it would have been better to completely do it from scratch as like the new me
mhm,
post COVID, because it was challenging to remember what it was I was trying to do
mhm,
and
mhm.
make it cohesive for me as an artist to understand what I was doing.
Now that I hear you talking about it, I think it was very similar to for me, because we rescued the all the cues, right?
Yeah,
We tried
yeah,
to recreate them. I had photographic material of all the cues, so I was able to at least see what I did. And
yeah,
lighting is a little different because you can actually change things very drastically. Um,
right.
but since uh, what we did in Dallas was something that Henry and I and with the team we developed in a long period of time, I decided to trust. Uh, how can I say trust?
Your old
Those,
instincts.
like those initial.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that that's the process that I went through too is like, okay, I need to trust that those initial instincts when I was 100% in this
Mhm.
were right.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
So
crazy.
but as you know, there's some scenes that actually changed quite a bit, with Amalia and her death,
Yeah.
and then her passing, and then towards the end, there's some moments that Henry didn't have the chance to sculpture more deeply when we were in Dallas. That he was able to work here at the I mean there at the Goodman, and it, those moments they shook me up a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
but then as we were working on them, I just everything fell into place. That's how you say it, right? Like
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. I mean, I also have to say, like, I'm turning this back on you because you're amazing. But the moments when Amalia, the mother
Mhm,
of this of Lutza, the main character, goes in and out from lucidity or
mhm.
presentness back into herself with lighting is some of the most stunning moments I've ever seen on stage. Like your lighting cues. No, I'm serious. Like your lighting cues are what made those scenes. It was
Mm.
beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Danielle. I mean, I
It
guess
was so cool. It was so cool. Everyone go see it.
yeah, I know. People should go see it. What else? Yeah, I thought it was an interesting process. I loved every second, every minute of it. And I talked to you about this before when we were towards the end of the process before opening. I find incredible that we had the opportunity of you and I getting to know each other better. And every time I go to any of these theaters, finding that familia, it's very important to me. And gaining new
Yeah.
friends and new collaborators is just one of the best things for
Yeah.
me. It's so important because
You
at
were
the
my highlight.
yeah. Love it. Okay, so now, Daniel, I was looking through at your portfolio, and I remember we've talked about Real Women Have Curves for a long time because I interviewed for the job. I didn't get
Right. I'm sorry. I wish you were there.
it's okay. I didn't get it, but but you were the designer in that production at the Dallas Theater Center. And when I remember you told me, yeah, the costumes at the end of the show are so tricky. And then when I saw your design, I was like, oh my freaking God. And I'm gonna show everyone the photos. Can you tell us a little bit about just, in a nutshell, what the show is about for those that haven't seen the movie or haven't
Sure.
seen the play or read anything about it? And I'm so curious to know, how did you get to those choices that are so
Yeah.
bold and so freaking awesome and out
Thank you.
there? And
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So the play is written by Josefina Lopez in the 1980s. And it's about five Chicana women in LA who work in a sweatshop. And there's two daughters and their mother, and then two other people who all work together. And the show is about not accepting, but coming to appreciate body positivity and each other. Um, and it's a comedy. It's a love story with familia and with friends. And they they're working to make these dresses that are in sizes like 0 and 00. They sell for like $400 at a department store, and they make $13 a week. Right? It's like horrible conditions. They're miserable. And yet it's like one of the funniest plays I've ever read. I guess you find humor at 4 a.m. trying to make a deadline like we all do. And the one of the daughters has a dream to open up her own boutique, and in the end is able to accomplish that with the help of everyone in the play. And traditionally in the play, I don't think this was a part of the movie at all, but in the play, at the very end, so they've been making these dresses the whole time. And at the end, they have this runway walk where they are wearing those dresses, but made for them. And of course, all the women have really diverse bodies. They have real bodies, right? Real women have curves. And there's a moment in the play where they all strip down and talk about their bodies. And it's a really beautiful moment.
Mhm.
And yeah, so when I was approached with this show, the director was like, so I love this play, but I don't want to do the ending like it's always been done. She said, I want to like turn this on their heads. I want to celebrate our herencia, and I want to like do this as Alexander McQueen meets
Oh,
Mexican folkwear. And I
oh,
was like,
okay. Now I understand.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. I don't know if I really got Alexander McQueen in there. I think I just got
I
weird
think
old
you did.
me.
I
But
think I think you did.
nah, I used to, yeah. But I not that cool. But I definitely tried to get a lot of like Mexican folkwear in there, and she was really inspired by like Mexican calendar girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did a lot of archetypes based off of those. So yeah, here you have like Virgen de Guadalupe. I used a lot of Aztec motifs, like from Coatlicue. like snakes and like hearts and hand necklaces. So a lot of Aztec goddess motifs, as well as things like feathers and lace. So a lot of pre-Columbian and post-colonial influences. So like Catholicism and its impact in Latin America, lace. I said that already. Flowers, all sorts of things like people influenced based off of soldaderas or the adelitas, just all sort of like influences and regions of Mexico into these costumes. But the main influence for me was, so we wanted to be like cultural reclamation.
Oh.
And when I was growing up, when I would go to my like tios' houses, they always had velvet paintings all over their walls. Do you know those? Like velvet, like people painting on velvet. So there'll be like Aztec gods like holding women.
Oh, I see.
Or like jaguars on velvet.
Yeah.
And like my relatives' houses were covered in these things. And like white culture sort of deems that as like kitsch or gaudy or like cheap. And I was like, what if I made dresses out of velvet and painted them?
Oh.
So all of those are velvet.
What? Okay, let me.
Yeah, and they're all hand painted.
Okay, wait. Let me bring up because those were the sketches. What I was showing before. So here's
one so that's all hand painted velvet.
But by the way, the set design is so beautiful.
Oh my god! I know. I know. I want to take that set home with me.
Oh my god, that's
it's
gorgeous.
So beautiful.
Let me see. I think there's another photo with more of the women. Oh, there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like the Chara outfit is all painted velvet, like the skirt that Gloria was in this. She was based off of a soldadera. We painted jaguar eyes on a velvet skirt because like it was so.
Oh my god! So wait, Gloria is the one on the right?
Yes, all the way on the right.
God.
Yeah. Oh my god, she rocked it so hard. And like feathers, like hummingbirds are really important in Aztec culture, or like the deity. I don't even know what the word is called. But anyway, feathers, lace, velvet, hearts and hands.
That's
snakes.
Amazing, Danielle, because the productions I've seen are very actually the dresses at the end very American like, like prom dresses.
Right.
And when I saw this, I was like, it just took the play to another level.
Yeah.
I want to show everyone the photo of them when they were on their daily.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So 80s tried to, go with something that fit each character. So you can see what they were wearing during the day in their tiny little sewing room.
That's great. I love it. I was so impressed when I saw those costumes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do because like going off of my own childhood of remembering like Mexicana decor all over my family's houses, and then also getting to do a lot of research on really cool like Aztec and Mayan goddess.
Yeah, and the research there is just so rich.
Yeah. So cool.
The culture is so rich. It's full of so many textures and colors, and so much for you to pick and bring to your design. I love it, and I congratulate you. It's just gorgeous.
It was a lot of fun to do, for sure. It was really fun.
I'm sure. Yeah, I worked on that show in Atlanta, and Regina Garcia did the sets, and we had
amazing, I'm sure.
Huh?
Amazing, I'm sure.
Oh, of course. I mean, everything that Regina does is just
amazing.
That's just who she is. And
Y'all are so cool.
yeah, and for those of you that don't know Regina, we interviewed her, I don't know, maybe like a couple of months ago. So if you go to the YouTube channel, you can look her up, and also you can go to her and see, take a look at her portfolio. She's doing a lot of amazing work out there, and I don't get tired of talking about Regina because I admire her so much.
She was so cool. She's so cool.
Yeah, and she has done a lot for the Latinx community of designers that everyone should know who this lady is. So okay, so now we took a look at Real Women, but then again looking at your portfolio, La Mancha. What?
Oh, in grad school. Yeah. I did that in graduate school.
So that was in grad school?
Yeah, that was in graduate school.
Wow. Okay, so tell me, I just want to know, I have some samples of your work there. What would you say that, what is the most significant or most the most significant or most important thing you learned or you got from this production? I see that the costumes are extremely elaborate, conceptually very again very bold, specific. um, what can you tell us about this production?
Yeah, I think something that was really fun about this production was the direct. Again, this is in grad school, so you sort of get to like, you have a safety net if you fail, so you get to make some weird decisions. But the director thought of this idea that in Man of La Mancha, Cervantes has this like bag or this box of costumes, and all of a sudden everyone gets dressed into these roles. And he said, like, what if some of them didn't come from the box, but instead came from the prison itself?
Oh.
So kind of creepy. But what was pretty cool was, after a lot of really gruesome research into the Spanish Inquisition.
Ouch.
And all their torture devices, we found these really interesting Inquisition torture devices.
Oh yeah.
That were these animal cage heads.
Yeah.
That they would put onto people and take their clothes off and stick them out onto the public square for terrible things. But so, like, what if some of those torture devices became costumes or like iron shoes? And so that was definitely the inspiration for the steed and the donkey.
Oh, I don't know if I have those. Wait, let me see. Okay.
Oh yeah, there's yeah, you can see the horse there.
I can see it.
So like, what if there was straw from the dungeon floor, and then there's the iron cage, there's the iron cage horse head.
Wow.
And then what if Don Quixote's initial helmet was a chamber pot? Right, which I think is like the golden helmet later, but like a different kind of chamber pot. So a lot of found object sort of inspiration. So that was really fun to do.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. And I love here, I always love seeing how like initial sketches and then the realized project. And here in your portfolio, we see that very clearly. And here you can see.
Oh yeah, here you go.
That's very stunning. It's
stunning. Yeah. So their shoes were based off of like these iron torture shoes, and again the animal torture helmets.
And who built these?
They hired someone from LA to come and build them. They're made out of what's something called warbler, which is a thermal plastic. So you can heat up the plastic and it retains its shape. It's used a lot in cosplay.
Oh wow, that's so interesting.
So, yeah, here's Aldonza, and she had a leather corset. It was really, really fun to make. Helped make that.
They're just so beautiful. And the thing is that, I mean, you can see that there's more to it. There's like layers to the thought, the process. And I just love seeing this kind of work. I wish, I wonder if maybe later on we can have another conversa and talk more about your work, because um, I find it very interesting, and I love the way you think, and how you
Oh,
develop your designs. Entonces, we're getting close to the end, pero something I forgot to ask you early on is that, for example, for me, and it's about process, which is super important to talk about here at Boundless, since, I mean, I don't know if you know that our company is a designer-led organization. So basically, everyone in our company, the decision makers are designers, and mostly women, and for us, the collaborative process and collaboration is like the golden, it's like it's our how do you say, like, the precious time, like that's our thing, right?
yeah, yeah,
And in my case, as a designer, I love those first meetings when you bring in research and everyone is in the same place, right?
yeah,
Bringing
yeah,
that initial inspirational research, and me discovering, oh, wait, so that's what Danielle is thinking. It actually, and it's funny because many times things match, like we're
right, 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 right.
of the same things. And then later on, that's like the initial, something that I'm very passionate about, those conversations with the director, etc. And then in my case, tech, even though I do complain about the hours, I do complain that I have to do things on the spot. But the awesome thing about lighting and tech is that you are shaping. I get to shape things right there in front of everyone's eyes, and I get to change and yeah, and just shape basically the whole thing, and transform it,
Yeah,
and make it a reality, everything that we talked about in the meetings. So
yeah.
I wonder, for you, what is the most exciting part of the process? um, how is your process? How do you work? How do you start the research? What is the process of designing for you?
Yeah, the process for me usually starts with like a mood board. So, like my emotional response, and that's usually from artists that I like or that I follow. Like, I really love an artist named Judith Hernandez.
Okay.
Um, Look her work up. She's done a couple of murals in LA,
Okay.
but also she has done some like amazing, amazing work. I also really love an artist named Crystal Galindo.
Mhm.
Really beautiful stuff, like so, and they I just love the colors that they use and the mood that they evoke. And so they have been constant muses for many show inspiration. So I start with that, like looking at other artists' work,
Mhm.
um, as an emotional response and where I want to go from there. And then, I mean, obviously, throughout the whole process, as you know, it's all about conversations and collaboration and talking. But when I need to get more concrete in my own line of work, the next process is coming up with images and things that have shapes and styles of things that I want in the show. And that's usually from designers that I really like. So McQueen or Iris Van Herpen,
Mhm.
um, Marchesa. There's so many designers that I love, just to see their art on the runway and to see how I can maybe use some of those ideas in my shows. As well as traditional research, of course. There's a lot of historical
Of course.
costuming, there's a lot of modern costuming. So it just depends. And then um, after that, I do the sketches. And what I like to do if I have the chance is to talk to the performer.
Oh.
Um, Not to because I want to start a conversation as a collaboration with them, because they don't often get to be a part of the collaborative process, but they are the ones who have to wear the clothes, and they are the ones who have to embody a character. And
Exactly.
again, like coming back to clothing psychology, if they don't buy into it, then I haven't done my job.
Then
So
your costume is not going to be successful if they don't know how to
exactly,
carry it, if they don't feel comfortable
exactly.
with.
Exactly. So like again with the psychology thing, like if I need to increase their confidence in inhabiting a role, that's my job. But I want them to be a part of that process, because I don't believe that performers are just bodies, like canvases, right? Like it's not just a one-sided relationship. I think that they are co-creators of knowledge and art. And I want to work with them on honoring all of their intersectional identities and the character. So if given the chance, and if I get their contact information, I love to just like get in touch with them and be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Like, I know you haven't started the rehearsal process, but just to give you an idea of where my head's at.
Yeah.
And then I get into, right, like building the costumes, finding the costumes. And what I like to do is have a closet. If it's not a built costume, if it's like a shopped costume, I like to have a closet, and I like to have a wild card option. That's like completely not what I was thinking the character would be, but you never know.
Yeah.
And I like to just try on a bunch of stuff, like you would go, right? Like you or I would go to maybe a clothing store and pull like 6 dresses and try all of them on. I just like to have a lot of options, because like you never know what's going to work. You never know what's not going to work. Because especially the initial idea that you had, it changes somehow. And as performers go through the rehearsal process, they discover a lot more about their character than I ever would, right? Because like I'm not in the head of the character, I'm not in the head of the performer. So it's really important for me to collaborate with them, as well as the other designers and the director and everybody else.
And what is the most exciting part of what you do? Is it opening night, or is it tech? What is it?
I think it's tech when everyone sees each other for the first time. Because then they're all like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. Or, Danielle, why didn't you get that for me? Or,
oh God.
Yeah, I think it's tech. And also the other exciting process is in the final fitting, what we call it. It's when they have the final, like if we're building a costume, like for the traje, for example, when it's in the real fabric and we have all the details and we put it on the body and the performer is like, oh, it's like the awe and the like breathless moments that I love in the fitting room.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, but it must be nerve-wracking, because I mean, as a producer, we've had several shows that have been, that have had complicated costume elements. And to me, now I'm talking as a producer, because I'm not a costume designer. I remember going into some fittings just like praying, I mean, I don't pray, but I need to like, sorry. No, that sounded so weird coming out of my mouth. But anyways, but like thinking, oh my God, I hope this really works.
Yeah.
Because it's so difficult. It's very difficult costumes. And that anxiety of how, what's the reaction of the actor gonna be,
right
when they look at themselves in the mirror, and how everything is gonna work. For me, it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah. No, it's hella nerve-wracking, especially like, for example, Real Women Have Curves. Like, I had no idea how those things were gonna turn out on bodies, right? Like, I can paint them,
of course,
and like conceptualize them, but when a person actually is wearing it, like, what's it gonna do?
Yeah.
Or like things have to change all the time. Like, I'll put costumes, like for example, Pancha in the show, who is a really I don't want to say angry, but she has a lot of walls. She has a lot of guards, because she's been through a lot, I think, in the show. And I think classically she's been costumed to wear really frumpy, oversized, what I would say is like sad clothing. And so I made a bad choice, and I looked at other designs, and I watched the movie, and I was like, okay, well, I'll try that, because I didn't really know where to go with Pancha. And so we had Gloria, who's in Mariachi, who was Pancha, in the room, and I put her in this sad clothing, and she was like, and I was like, and we were all just sort of really depressed about everything that was happening. And she was like, I have no idea who I am. Who is this character? Right. So, again, psychology, there was nothing there for her to grasp or to feed off of. And so then in that moment, it was terrifying for me because I failed in my job. But I don't think about it as failing per se.
That's
I
how
think
you
about
thought
it as a
initially.
learning moment.
Exactly. Maybe that's what you thought initially, but
Yeah.
you didn't
And then I
fail.
was like,
Part of the
uh,
process.
yeah. And I was like, I need to go back to the drawing board and think about this. And so I really thought about it. And I was like, what if Pancha was an ex chola?
Oh.
You know, like, what if she comes from like some violence in her home life?
Ooh.
Because then, like, when she has a breakdown in the middle of the play, it's really surprising
Ooh.
because,
Yeah.
like, her guard is up because she has to be tough.
Oh wait, let me find her. I don't know if is she on these photos? Let's see. Is she here?
She is. She's in the back. She's got the long hair and the blue shirt next to the.
Oh, she's sitting down.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, we gave her hoops and she, like, painted some wings on her eyes. And she, like, took off her hoops when she got angry. And we gave her, like, I gave her animal print. And she, like, the second fitting, she tried all these things on and she was like, oh my God, I get it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, psychologically, she was able to access the character in a whole new way.
That's amazing.
And then she made, like, Instagram stories, like, I mean, she's a comedian. She's like, with the wing, you just got to, like, act like your elbow slipped.
Yeah,
so
that's
funny.
incredible how I love it. How the costumes probably took her character to that other level.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gave her a reason to be defensive. And then, like, to have a really heartfelt breakdown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's more dramatic for the audience. When you
exactly.
see a character that seems to be so certain about everything and so strong and and then suddenly have a vulnerable moment, then it's more, ¿cómo se dice? It gets to you.
Yeah. So that was a moment where I learned to collaborate with the performer.
Uh-huh.
And to just, like, be flexible and have wild cards in the room because things are like, when you get an individual, your art needs to collaborate with an individual to make it art. So.
Yeah, totally. Okay, Daniel, we're close to the end of this, but I cannot end this without looking at some paintings that you've done, and I was amazed by them, and and especially with what they communicated, at least to me. And I think they're gorgeous, and I want to show them off
Aww,
to everyone. Can you tell us, so are these projects part of something else, or are these just paintings that you do whenever you feel like it because you want to express yourself in this way? Or what are they? I'm gonna start.
No. Oh yeah, this one. This was just a watercolor study that I did of where I went to college in Vermont. Yeah, this is for fun. This was just me trying to. This was just me messing around with landscape. I don't normally do landscape, so it was kind of a fun challenge for me to use watercolor that wasn't in a costume, but as, like, a painting. That's one of my I did this back in 2016. This one was for a project. This was
what is
grad
it?
School.
I love it.
Thank you. It's a marker study, and we had to conceptualize, like, a Lord of the Rings theme park.
What?
Yeah, it was really goofy project, but this was a marker study. So,
but this is gorgeous. I mean, I love all the detail in the plants, and also reminds me of Barcelona a little bit.
Yeah. So it's all marker. So that was kind of fun because I don't normally use marker.
Oh my God. I wish I could paint. I mean, I at NYU I took they made me take painting and drawing for the entire grad school because I was so bad. Actually, all the lighting designers, we were so bad. My entire class. And I learn a lot, obviously, but I don't have the talent. So there's no way.
I'm
Okay,
sure
let
you do.
me
I'm sure you
no, no, no. I mean, I can show you some of my things because I keep them because it took me, it was so hard.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It.
Blood,
Even
sweat,
though
and
they're like
tears.
20 years old, I keep them. Este,
Oh
what
yeah,
about
this
you, Pi?
this is for my stepdad who loves fish. He
That's
likes to fish. And I was like, oh, okay, I know what to give you for your Christmas.
oh my God, that's great.
Here's a
And
fish
then
painting.
what
This
about
is
this?
this is another marker study. This was for a similar this was for graduate school with markers. This was another theme park thing. I think it was the Lord of the Rings. It was like the entrance to some Lord of the Rings thing. I don't remember. I just remember having to mark.
But I find it so strange. I mean, as a grad school project, to get you guys to do a Lord of the Ring theme
I have
park.
a I have a lot of
Not
feelings
a
about
set
that
design?
class.
Was it a set design class or?
No, it was like it was a guy that they got to just sort of like I don't think he knew what to do with us. He was just like, I don't know,
Yeah, but they're
Lord of
amazing.
the Rings.
They're
And we
amazing.
were like because I would have wanted to do I don't know, like still life or landscape, but he was like, nah, y'all gonna do Lord of the Rings stuff. And we're like, okay,
Ugh,
whatever.
ugh.
It was
It's,
just to get us like, yeah, it was like a fine art class, but with marker and acrylic.
yeah, they're beautiful, beautiful paintings. Did you do um during the pandemic? Did you get to work on some paintings or no?
I didn't. I did a lot of sewing.
Oh,
Yeah, I did a lot of sewing, but I didn't do. I bought a canvas and I bought all the oil paint and I like have it ready to go, and I just haven't done it yet.
I see. Okay. Well, as soon as you get something, I want to see it.
Okay, well, I'll show you.
This is beautiful. A beautiful, beautiful work. Your entire portfolio is amazing. And I'm going to put up, let me find it. Oh my God, what's going on with MC? Uh, Amy. So Amy is our associate producer, and I call her virtual stage manager. But Amy, I'm trying to find Danielle's website. I put it in, I think maybe in the banners. No.
Well, it's easy. It's myname.com.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
By the way, while Amy, oh, look, there's a comment here from Juan Luis Acevedo, which is, oh, there it is, danielneves.com. That's her website. So you guys can go in there and then look at her work, which is quite incredible, as you have seen. So there's a comment here from Juan Luis Acevedo. Bravo, Daniel Nieves. Thank you for your commitment, not only with the story and how to best communicate it, but to engage the actors that ultimately, as you said, will be wearing your stunning creations. Your craft is magnificent and reminds me of a dear mentor and designer, Gloria Saez, which is also a mentor to me. Cheers, health and prosperity to you, and see you on Broadway for sure. Oh, yes, totally.
Someday.
Totally.
Someday.
Yeah, Juan Luis is an amazing Puerto Rican actor, and yeah, that's great. And then Lisa,
Thank you.
gracias, Juan Luis. And Lisa says those suits were fab.
Gracias, Lisa.
She saw the mariachi production in
Oh, yay.
she was there
Oh,
at
yay.
opening night.
Oh, gracias. Yeah, thank you for coming. Support
Yay.
us both.
That's amazing. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Danielle, for spending this, taking the time to talk to us. And I'm really proud of the work you've done. And I look forward to seeing you, work at amazing places. And like Juan Luis said, uh, we'll see you soon on Broadway, I'm very sure. And thank you.
I muted myself. Thank you, Maria Cristina. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. So thank you.
Ok, muchas gracias. Bueno, entonces,
Uh,
este es el final de nuestra conversa. This is the end of our talk with Daniel, but we will be back next month. And stay tuned to social media and our mailers, and you will learn who's the next amazing Latinx designer that we're going to be talking to. Así que muchas gracias a todos y buenas noches. Chao, chao. Bye, bye, everyone.
ciao. Bye bye.
Bye, Daniel.
Bye.